Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. We are setting the stage for what can really only be described as a historic, incredibly high-stakes round of 16 clash. Picture this, all right? You've got this heavy, menacing New Jersey sky overhead, and the atmosphere is just thick. It's thick with anticipation. On one side, you have Brazil, the eternal tournament favorites, literal footballing royalty. And on the other, Norway, an underdog nation bringing a completely different kind of arsenal to the pitch, ready to absolutely shake the foundations at the 2026 World Cup.
Look at this quote right here. He smiles, and the whole world smiles with him. The samba falls silent, and the roaring Norwegians have their greatest hour. Wow, you could just feel the emotion in that, right? We are unpacking a monumental David versus Goliath upset today. It's this incredible narrative of gritty resilience against pure flair. A story where the music literally stops for one nation while a completely new roar takes over the stadium.
So let's get into part one, the clash of styles. Samba versus strength.
Now, what's fascinating is the stark contrast in philosophies here, and you could see it from the very first whistle. On one hand, you have that traditional Brazilian flair, right? Blistering speed, rapid transitions, and a counter-attacking prowess that can just carve up a defense in seconds. But then, you look at Norway. They brought muscle, might, and method. It's a highly disciplined, purely physical command designed to disrupt, absorb, and just overwhelm. Completely brutal, but executed with absolute precision.
Let's trace how this actually played out. This timeline maps out the exact chronology of the match's unbearable tension. You've got early missed opportunities that leave the door cracked open in the first half, followed by these unbelievable, heroic defensive stands deep in the second half. And then, boom! Absolute explosion in the final 10 minutes, capped off by stoppage time drama. Keeping this progression in mind is absolutely crucial as we zoom in on the specific turning points.
Which brings us to part two, the Giants' stumble. Brazil's early chances.
Early on, Brazil actually dominated possession and territory, exactly like everyone expected. But when handed a golden opportunity from the penalty spot, the execution just falters. The taker tries this stutter step technique and it completely backfires against the heroic, sharp Norwegian reaction. The ball is firmly repelled, and honestly, that wasn't just a missed goal. It was a massive transfer of momentum. It was a moment that basically yelled to the underdogs, hey, they bleed.
And it wasn't just the penalty either. You've got Vinicius Jr., literally one of the most dangerous wingers on the planet, operating flawlessly out on that left flank. He's delivering these sensational, brilliant passes, effortlessly slicing right through the Norwegian defense. He's serving up high-quality chance after high-quality chance, but inexplicably, zero finishes for Brazil. Zero. The final touch was just missing, and you could practically see the frustration mounting with every single play.
So, how did Norway survive that? Let's look at part three. Holding the line. Nyland's masterclass.
Well, the answer is right here in this broadcaster's sheer disbelief. Nyland will not have played better than this in his career. Goalkeeper Orjan Nyland put on an absolute masterclass between his sticks. When a commentator explicitly says something like that, you know you're watching history. It was a performance that bordered on the supernatural, honestly. He just kept frustrating the world's most elite attackers, time and time again.
And let's be clear about exactly who he was denying. We are talking about absolute heavyweights of Brazilian football. Vinicius Jr., Casemiro, Gabriel Martinelli, even the fresh attacking substitutes brought on specifically to change the game. Every single one of them repeatedly shut down. Nyland was pulling off absolute blinders, just absorbing this massive volume of high-danger shots without cracking even a little bit.
Actually, it gets crazier. He wasn't just saving shots from Brazil, he literally saved Norway from themselves. There was this heart-stopping, totally bizarre moment where a panicked defensive intervention almost ricocheted squarely into Norway's own net. A complete disaster waiting to happen. But Nyland is frantically backpedaling, fighting his own momentum, and somehow manages to get a critical fingertip on the ball to push it wide. Just an absolute lifesaver of a moment.
Moving into the final stretch, part four, the ticking clock, the 80th minute.
So thanks to Nyland, Norway survived the onslaught. Now there are barely 10 minutes left on the clock in New Jersey, and the deadlock is completely frozen at 0-0. Can you even imagine the immense psychological pressure inside that stadium? You've got the Brazilian players feeling the suffocating weight of an entire nation demanding a routine win. Meanwhile, Norway is suddenly realizing, wait a minute, a historic miracle is actually within reach.
Which forces us to ask the question that was hanging thick in the stadium air. Could Norway actually do the impossible? I mean, they had weathered the storm, they had frustrated the Giants.
But could they find that one magical sequence in transition to actually shatter Brazilian hearts?
The answer? A resounding yes. Let's break down the tactical execution here. Substitute Andreas Schelderup creates just half a yard of space out wide and delivers this absolute peak pinpoint cross right into the danger area, and waiting in the box, the inevitable Erling Haaland. In this defining matchup against Brazilian defender Gabriel, Haaland gains the definitive upper hand. The forward movement, the sheer strength, the undeniable quality of the header, it leaves the keeper totally rooted. Bam, 1-0 Norway.
Which sets up part 5, the fatal blow.
The stadium is in utter shock. Brazil starts operating in this broken, desperate state. You're seeing normally composed players like Casemiro lashing wildly at the ball from a distance with just unnecessary power. They're panicking. They push everyone forward in a totally disorganized press, leaving themselves completely exposed at the back. And because of that massive structural void, Haaland finds himself through on goal again. He steps up and puts it away like it's casual target practice. It's as easy as that, but it's deadly, and it's fatal for Brazil. The match is sealed, which is brutal clinical efficiency.
Let's look at the aftermath in part 6, the greatest Viking victory. Now, in stoppage time, there is a final gasp, a penalty awarded to Brazil due to a late foul in the box, which Neymar rolls in smoothly. But honestly, it's really just a badge of honor for a broken team. The massive damage was already done. Just look at this historic final scoreline. It almost doesn't feel real. Brazil 1, Norway 2. This cements a monumental upset. The day Haaland and a heroic defensive unit defy the odds, stopped the Samba, and executed the greatest Viking victory in modern football history.
This match completely reshaped the landscape of the tournament, and it leaves us with this massive, looming question. With Brazil broken, and these Vikings breaking entirely new ground on the world stage, just how far can Erling Haaland and this commanding squad go in 2026? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning what you see on the pitch.